But now we're going to start at the beginning, and that's with the most basic ingredient, royal icing. I broke this egg yesterday, and I have the egg white here, and I'm going to take out the little spindle that is usually attached to the yolk. If you leave that in your mixture, you'll find that it will actually end up blocking your icing tubes. I have about a pound of icing sugar that has been sieved, and I'm going to add about half a spoonful at a time. Each time I add the icing sugar to my egg white, I make sure that I incorporate it all. So you keep beating it until your icing will stand in a soft peak, and you'll see that the tip will just turn over. And this is right for piping your fine lines, etc. Now, it's most important that you keep your royal icing in a good condition, and the main reason for that is that the sugar will crystallize if the air stays on it. So flatten your icing as much as you can. Make sure you get it all off the sides of the bowl. And then wipe the edge of the bowl with a damp cloth so that you get all those crystals of sugar from the side of the bowl. Then you want to get some cling film and put that right down on top of the icing so that you make sure you get all of the air out, because it's the air that will actually form the crystals. Once you've done that, put another layer of cling film right over the top of the bowl, and the reason you put the one right down on the icing is to stop the air that is between the top of the icing and this layer of cling film. You can then put the whole thing into a Tupperware bowl, but if you're going to use the icing straight away, you simply need to cover your bowl with a damp cloth. And now I'm going to show you how to make a piping bag. These are marked with a straight line on each of these two edges. It's marked A, B and C with a dotted line going along here. If you hold it at A with the long edge of your triangle at the top, the right angle at your wrist, pick up B and put it under your thumb at A. Keep these two here parallel as close as you can, and pull your point B until A stops at the dotted line. Wrap B around, fold all three in. The reason a piping bag actually bursts usually is because you haven't done an overlap, and this has an overlap from the point right up to the edge. They're actually made of vegetable parchment rather than greaseproof. You fold all three in, make two little nicks and fold that in, and that is your piping bag, and it should end up with no hole at the end at all. And you then cut off about 3/4 of an inch. You drop your tube into the bag, and the nozzle actually becomes a continuation of the shape of your bag. To fill it with royal icing, take a little bit of icing on your palette knife, put it into the bag, and if you hold your thumb against the back of the palette knife, you can get all that icing off down into the bag without getting covered with icing. Fold it right down over the icing, and this way you actually make a seal, because the little nick that you folded in is folded right down against the back of the bag. Fold one side in, then the other, two little turns and then a big one, and that actually forms a pad for you to have your thumb against in order to be able to pipe. Now, to pipe straight lines, always keep the end of your nozzle nice and clean. Anchor it to start with and lift the nozzle, let the icing fall out of it. A good test to check if your icing is the right consistency before you start doing a lot of work is actually to pipe it between your fingers. Now you ought to be able to move it around without it breaking off too quickly. If it does break straight away, it means your icing is too wet. If you have a lot of trouble pushing it out of the nozzle, then your icing is too dry. If it's too wet, add some icing sugar to it, and if it's too dry, a touch of water. So again, you lift your nozzle and let it fall out of the bag. You can, of course, do trellising work simply by changing the direction that you're going to pipe. You can pipe scallops. And if you want to pipe a curve, then the best way to do it is actually to lift. And I'll be doing a little bit more of this when we actually come to pipe the collar. And when you come to the end where you want to actually stop, just release the pressure on your thumb. Nothing's going to happen because the icing will stop flowing, and then you can just put it down where you want it to go. To pipe a star, we use the number 5 nozzle, and we hold it vertically. Push the icing out, stop pushing, and pull away. So push, stop pushing, and pull away, and you'll get a star. You use the same nozzle to get a shell, but this time you rest your nozzle about 45 degrees to your board or your cake. Push the icing out, release the pressure, and pull away. You then sit the nozzle about 1/8 of an inch behind the tail of the one you've just piped. Push until it covers the tail, and then pull away.